You want to talk about overcoming COVID? We should be talking about vaccine hesitancy.
Here's this little clip I put together of Ben Shapiro because I thought it was interesting. He was basically going back and forth with somebody on his Twitter page, and the guy said, "Didn't you tell everybody who didn't get the vaccine was a dope?" And Ben kind of like skirted around the question. So I just wanted to show proof because he was like, "Oh yeah, and I changed my tune and it was only for the obese and the elderly." Maybe at some point, but I don't really think that is the truth, and we're going to show the receipts. But here's also at the end of it, I chopped up, and you can see the full clip of this. I had to clip some of it out because Facebook and YouTube are psychotic and Twitter's a little more free. You can watch this full clip. I just wanted to show you side by side what Louis Farrakhan was saying and side by side what Ben Shapiro was saying, because I know a lot of my audience doesn't like Louis Farrakhan and they like Ben Shapiro. Isn't it interesting that Ben Shapiro always tries to call him an anti-Semite and censor him and make sure his audience never sees him? Yet, in my opinion, his advice was even more terrible. And this just shows you why you shouldn't allow people to say that's hate speech, and you shouldn't allow people to tell you what to think. You should think for yourself, because sometimes people like Ben Shapiro are wolves in sheep's clothing. And sometimes it's better to have somebody stand in front of you and say, "I don't like you, but here's my opinion," versus someone that acts like they're your best friend and they're so smart and knowledgeable when they're really either compromised or very foolish and naive about certain topics. Let's roll the clips. Someone messaged Ben Shapiro, "Didn't you tell everyone to get the vaccine and called the ones who haven't gotten it dopes?" Shapiro responded, "I broadly recommended the vax when Pfizer and the feds were lying about their stats. As data emerged, I recommended it for the elderly and obese. I opposed vax mandates the whole time. My company spent millions and risked millions in fines to sue the feds to stop the vax mandates." While some of what he said is true, he absolutely did say, in other words, get the vaccine dopes. And let's check the scorecard of who said what, when.
And we have seen a tremendous amount of vaccine hesitancy, unfortunately, in the Black and Hispanic community.
If they come up with a vaccine, be careful.
Yes, sir.
Don't let them vaccinate you with their history of treachery through vaccines.
Okay, Black America, only 67% of Black Americans say they definitely will get the vaccine or probably get the vaccine. So the Black community has tremendous vaccine hesitancy. Okay, that is a real problem.
They're making money now, plotting to give 7,500,000,000 people a vaccination.
Yes, that's right.
Dr. Fauci, Bill Gates and Melinda.
The people who should be ripped up and down right now are people like Louis Farrakhan, who's literally going out there and telling his millions of followers that the COVID vaccine is a vial of death. Have you seen any media coverage of this? If a major conservative figure who had met with a bunch of members of Congress were out there literally telling people that the COVID vaccine was a vial of death, you know that would be at the front of every single newspaper, right? Conservatives deny vaccine efficacy. And yet here was Louis Farrakhan doing just that. Democratic members of Congress have met with this guy. They continue to meet with this guy. Have you seen a headline about this? Here's Louis Farrakhan, who has many, many followers, talking about how the COVID vaccine is a vial of death.
Some of these so-called vaccines, you know, it's the nanoparticles that men like Dr. Fauci have proprietary knowledge of that allows them to get a patent for their vial of death.
I mean, how is that not the headline, right? I mean, seriously, that should be the headline. You want to talk about overcoming COVID? We should be talking about vaccine hesitancy.
So I played that clip for multiple reasons. The first one is someone said, "Didn't you tell people that, you know, they were dopes if they didn't get the vaccine?" And Ben skirted around the question. And the truth is, reality is, yes, absolutely, Ben was calling people dopes for not getting the vaccine. He said basically that he was telling obese and elderly. He was also telling Black people to get it, and Ben he was like really bothered. You know what I'm saying? On my personal page, I was like, listen, make your own decision. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Ben Shapiro, by the way, is also not a doctor. Just because his wife's a doctor doesn't make him a doctor. So the fact that he even recommended it to anybody, he should feel absolutely ashamed and guilty, because I've never told anybody what to do. I mean, I've said my opinion of what I'm doing. But as far as you have to live, like, why would someone like that be telling you to get a medical product when they have no experience in the field? It's really evil. But in general, it's like he was angry. He was really furious at black people for not getting the vaccine. Furious, like 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. That's not enough. Ben wants all of you vaccinated.
So the black community has tremendous vaccine hesitancy. Okay, that is a real problem.
Like, he was like pissed off, and he kept bashing Louis Farrakhan as this anti-Semite when Farrakhan was telling people, look at the history of the vaccine injury, I almost said, but industry. Look at the history. And it's funny because, Ben will now pretend like he just got fooled by the data of Pfizer. Why are you believing the data of Pfizer? Are you an idiot? Are you that stupid? Is Ben dumb? Maybe. I don't think he's dumb. Oh, I just got fooled by the feds and Pfizer. Like, you're a fool if you trust the feds and Pfizer as if it's like the word of God. Isn't he a religious man? Like, oh, I mean, the feds and the Pfizer tricked me. Like, then you're an idiot, because Pfizer has a history of fraud, corruption, and anybody with like half a brain just looks at this stuff and be like, all of this was data driven, like my videos. And I don't want to get too much into this because I want to play other clips, but people like Scott Adams are so egotistical that they'll claim there's no possible way you could have known, you just got lucky. It's not luck. And then Ben will tell you, well, I was believing the data of Pfizer. Oh, and I was believing the data of General Mills when they told me that their cereal is the greatest thing to eat in the morning. I mean, it's better than a banana and an apple. I was believing them, so it's not my fault. It is your fault, dude. You're a news analyst and you're not good at your job when it came to the most important issue in modern history. Like, you failed. It's fine, but don't act like you didn't say that people who didn't get the vaccine were dopes. You absolutely did say that. Don't act like you were just talking about obese and elderly people, because you absolutely weren't. And don't act like it wasn't possible to see through Pfizer and Fed data, because there was a bunch of other data out there. If you watch my videos from 2020, all my videos are data driven. It's not like I just sat up here and made up things out of my mind. I was doing 10-minute reports that were getting millions of views, showing all the other data that Pfizer doesn't want to talk about, showing the data that the feds weren't talking about. So I just want to let people know for the future, because there's a lot of like fake smart people out there, or they are smart, but they're really stupid in certain categories, like Sam Adams, or what? Not Sam Adams. I mean, what's the one guy? Sam Harris. Like, Sam Harris is like, I'm an intellectual because my mom wrote Golden Girls or something. Like, so now you have to think I'm a smart boy, and I wipe my butt with golden toilet paper. Cool, dude. Like, is he a smart guy? Like, maybe. I don't think Sam Harris is dumb, but like, he's an absolute idiot on most topics. So I don't consider him smart. I consider a rural worker who can't even like read or spell that can actually fix something. I consider them more intelligent than Sam Harris. Like, just because you can say big words, but you're wrong about 95% of things and you're completely useless in the real world, like, does that make Sam Harris smart? I don't think so, personally. But maybe he is smart. And when it comes to these other people like Scott Adams, they're good at being like pseudo intellectual. These people that they always have to make you feel like, oh, they're so much smarter than you. I'm Scott Adams. I'm a magician. I'm a wizard. You can't understand my psych. Dude, you made Dilbert, and it's a great comic. You're not a stupid guy. You've been very successful. You're wealthy. You're well connected. God bless Scott Adams, but these people are trying to con their audience. It's not working because most of their audience is smarter than them, but trying to be like, I'm a magician and a wizard, and you have to bow down to me because I'm so smart. And Shapiro doesn't say that, but he definitely has this way of speaking and acting like he's so much smarter. Like, oh, Candace should listen to me about Kanye. It's like, Ben, you were wrong about like the whole 2020, and Candace was right. Instead of talking down to her and being like, you should listen to me about Ye, maybe you should listen to Candace because she's more right than you are about a lot of topics, including big pharma. So it's like he has this nerve, and him and Scott Adams are like these pseudo intellects. Like, I'm so much smarter than my audience. So they get a lot of good people to look up to them like, oh, these guys are so smart. Like, they're not. So the point that I'm trying to make is whether you think they're smart or not, the data was there, okay? Not the Pfizer and the Fed data, but if you're going to study a Pfizer vaccine and you're only listening to the feds and Pfizer, and the feds are buying Pfizer, I mean, you're an idiot. You know what I'm saying? Oh, the feds and the Pfizer lied to me. You mean the feds who bought 100 million doses of the Pfizer product? You mean the feds who, or the NIH who's backing Moderna and has part of the patent? You mean Moderna who's suing Pfizer for the money? You mean the guy, like, you're an idiot. I read a General Mills report that says that their cereal's healthier than bananas. Like, and I mean, but it's not my fault. I'm a smart boy. It's I got fooled. No, there was a way to see through the lies. There was a way to be right. It's not just them who are wrong, Ben. you were wrong. It's not just them who didn't do their job. You didn't do your job. And the reason you didn't do your job is because you're too busy calling Louis Farrakhan anti-Semitic when he probably knows more about the topic than you do. You're calling everybody who talks to Ye anti-Semitic when Candace Owens, who's friends with him, did a way better job on the pandemic than you did. So maybe instead of trying to quash all the hate speech around you, Ben Shapiro, maybe the truth is what you hate and you're trying to call the hate speech the truth, or the truth hate speech. So less acting like you're such a smart boy, more taking accountability, because Pfizer didn't just fail us and the feds didn't just fail us. You also failed your audience, Ben Shapiro, and you should be ashamed as not a doctor that you told people to get a medication. You know, it's like you could say you could recommend it, whatever, but trying to bully black people into getting the vaccine, crying about vaccine hesitancy, you know, it's a very odd behavior.